So a lot has happened over the last couple of weeks for Battlefield 2042, and I wanted to take some time to talk about it. First, we had the Liquidators event. It sucked. Static spawns are terrible for small player count modes, and every game was a blowout for one team, easily holding a spawn trap against the other. DICE really needs to think about implementing dynamic spawns if that's even possible, because what we had was really not good. It's really sad to see this event fall flat. I was really looking forward to Liquidators adding a fun alternative experience to the game, but the execution ultimately let the idea down. We got more news about the Specialist rework coming in Season 3, basically just shuffling Irish into the support category and gaining the faster revives from the support class, as well as replenishing the grenades of revived allies, a trait that was previously belonging to Crawford. Crawford will be moved to the Engineer class with a new trait. I don't have too much to say yet overall. Things are still in testing and subject to change until the rework launches next season, but I'm happy to see that they're iterating on things. I think Irish does make more sense as a support, but I'm not sure about Crawford as an engineer. His mounted gun is decidedly anti-infantry, but maybe they'll change it to fire anti-armor rounds, or maybe it'll become some kind of anti-air weapon. With Update 2.2, we got several more Vault weapons. The Rex feels like it's probably the best of the new options overall, but even then it's not very good. The ACWR actually felt pretty good within 25 meters or so, but after that it has all the same issues as the Vault weapons from before. The spread is awful on these Vault guns, which makes them pretty useless for anything outside of close range. They also have no magazine attachment options, which really makes them a tough sell for aggressive players in 128 player modes. Doing a flank on 6 or so enemies is pretty difficult when you can only take out a couple of them if you're lucky before needing to suffer through a very slow reload animation, which also seems to have some sort of desync issue where the animation is finished but the ammo isn't in the mag for a split second. All of these Vault guns just really feel like the 2042 weapons did at launch, with awful spread and misaligned reload animations, but they're even worse since they can't even have larger magazines. I really hope DICE does something about these guns. I suspect whatever base level changes that were made to the 2042 weapons very early on to make them better never carried over to these Vault weapons. It also reminds me a lot of Warzone when Black Ops Cold War launched and Raven Software started porting over those Cold War weapons into the Warzone game. There were a lot of very similar odd behaviors until the devs made some big sweeping changes to make things more consistent across the board. And hopefully DICE can follow Raven's lead there and make the older guns more competitive. We also had a myriad of bug fixes, a few balance changes, and a ton of other minor changes, but I really wanted to talk about two things that excite me the most about this update. First up is the Orbital rework, which I think is absolutely phenomenal. The base map wasn't in quite as bad a state as other launch maps, and I think it's potentially become my favorite map in the game, right up there with Exposure. And it's just a really solid Battlefield map in my eyes and shows that 128 players can work. They added a new capture point up in the hills to fight over, which is a ton of close quarters fun, but they also did a lot to make the map feel like the promotional artwork before launch. It feels like a battlefield. It feels like a place that's constantly under siege, and it feels like it's been a grueling, violent conflict. One of the criticisms I had of the Kaleidoscope rework was that while there were a lot of changes to make the map function better, it was all just a lot of generic shipping containers and sandbags that didn't really add any personality or character to the map. It just felt like some drag and drop assets. Orbital, however, is quite the opposite. One of the highest pieces of praise I can give is the change in art direction, finally giving us the grittier look and feel we've all been asking for. I think taking maps from launch that weren't in quite so bad of a state, like Orbital and Manifest, and giving them mid-season reworks is a brilliant idea. While these maps need some work in terms of cover and pacing, they definitely need significantly less of it compared to other maps like Breakaway and Hourglass. As a result, DICE can put a lot more time and effort into the art direction, really allowing 2042 to finally become the dystopian near-future war it was advertised to be. On top of that, it gives us something to look forward to later in the season, instead of grinding everything out within the first couple of weeks and that being the end of it. And if you're already familiar with the patch, then you know what I'm going to say is the biggest piece of news. We finally have persistent servers for Portal. I can't emphasize how great this is for the game, essentially giving us a general server browser as well. If you're a Battle Pass owner, you can host a persistent server and it'll stay up even if there are no real players in it for up to 7 days. I've seen Portal servers slowly begin to ramp up. It'll definitely take some time. I think a lot of the 2042 player base has kind of forgotten about Portal given how gutted it's been up until now. But I think long term, especially once the general player base doesn't need XP anymore, Portal will be the de facto way to play this game. I especially love what this does for communities like bfportal.gg, which is a really cool website with a library of great Portal experiences for you to find, or you can create and share your own experience. They have a Discord server as well. I'll link the website in the description if you want to check it out. So that does it for my thoughts here, and I want to hear from all of you. Have you had a chance to play Orbital yet? And if so, what do you think of it? Have you tried out some of the Portal servers out there, or do you have any cool ideas for a Portal experience? Let me know in the comments below. I'd love to have a conversation. If you enjoyed the video, feel free to drop a like, and if you didn't, leave a dislike so I know I need to change something. Subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you all in the next video.